And now I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Leadership and Development, Discovering Your Leadership Voice. I'm going to hand things over to our featured presenter today. She is a CEO and Senior Human Resources Consultant. She has over 20 years of HR experience and believes in understanding who we are and how we show up as leaders and how that's essential to everyone's success. Please, everyone, welcome Dr. Tiffany Slater. Tiffany, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mayanne. Welcome to the Discovering Your Leadership Voice webinar, everyone. The objectives are for you to understand how leadership is enhanced through your message, that compelling messages connect people to a purpose, and the effect your voice has on your impact and influence. If you are in the right place, please type absolutely in the chat box. And if you are not in the right place, please type no in the chat box so that we can get you to where you need to be. As we move through the session, I encourage you to consider these questions. Hopefully, having these in the back of your mind will cause you to mine for the answers throughout our time together this morning. In this section, we will discuss who you are as a leader so that your authentic being can come through in your message. To be trusted, you will need to be perceived as credible in others' eyes. The more you know yourself, who you are, and what makes you the person that you are, the easier it will be to lead with authenticity. Everything starts with us. We can't have authentic relationships unless we are authentic people. And in order to be authentic, it's essential that our messages and actions align with who we are. Our values must be clear and we must act in accordance with them. How can we act in accordance with them if we don't know what they are? So here's a poll question. Have you willingly followed someone that you perceived as not being credible? And I want you to respond to yes or no. One of the questions that I have for you is also, why should others follow us and assist us in achieving our goals if we are not seen as credible or authentic? Does this quote resonate with any of you? If so, why? Please type your responses in the chat box. Being authentic is challenging because being authentic is just not easy. It means embracing aspects of ourselves that may not be favorable, being transparent and vulnerable. It is impossible to be authentic without awareness. It is important to be authentic leaders to know that, it is important to authentic leaders to know themselves, their strengths, and their vulnerabilities. Remember, it is not easy to be authentic. It takes time and effort to really become self-aware and act in alignment with who we are at all times. That does not mean that authentic leaders are perfect. No one is perfect, and that's okay. Our followers don't expect us to be, just as we shouldn't expect perfection of them. It's a great practice to be emotionally honest with yourself. It enhances self-awareness and self-control, and generally, it's important to be emotionally honest with others. But it is also a matter of conscious judgment, whereby a risk assessment may be necessary. The risk assessment is where you balance the cost of disclosure against the anticipated benefits. It's important to note that the key to deeper and improved relationships is deeper disclosure and openness. In this section, we will discuss your purpose as a leader and why developing an effective leadership voice is essential in terms of successfully delivering your purpose. Are there any questions at this point?
At this point, no questions. You're doing a great job so far, Tiffany.
Thank you. We need our leadership voice because we are often the face of the enterprise, contribute to the strategic direction of the organization, and our voices help us to grow the value of our leadership contribution. What does having a leadership voice mean to you? Type that in the chat box for me. Having a leadership voice to me means that I am able to craft my message such that it strategically lands on my audience in a manner that compels them to take action towards the realization of our shared goals. The leadership voice does not demand, degrade, or disrespect. Instead, it compels us, it uplifts others, and it advocates. We need our leadership voice because others depend on us and trust that we are leading them in the right direction. Our voice is the key to the success of the team, the organization, and our own success as leaders. Maya, can you read some of the responses?
Yes, some people are saying they want to be heard, be a motivator, being trustworthy and being a resource for others, connecting with the audience, trying to get the message across. A lot of people saying being able to communicate clearly with others. Person said a leader is someone who is someone others will want to follow. Means having a seat at the table, and being able to talk with others and invite others to also talk with them. Helping people feel like they're a part of the team and helping them know that they are important and their talents are needed. I like that one.
Yes, sounds great. Well, thank you all for sharing. And I really think that we will hit on some of those topics as we progress through this webinar. So thank you for sharing. Take a moment and read the slide and consider how you see yourself using your leadership voice to support your team, affect change, or influence performance. Who in your circle uses their leadership voice effectively? Type that in the chat box. I'm asking you to do this because thinking about it from this perspective is a different way of looking at the role of a leader. Rarely do we say, Alex really uses her leadership voice effectively. We may say that Alex is a great influencer or has a way of getting people behind her. That's typically the way that we see leaders, as having the ability to move people in a direction to make change happen. So, what is the purpose of leadership? Why does your role exist? How would you know you have achieved success? What difference does leadership make? To who and in what way? Leaders are there to help others to be successful and to help everyone at all levels to move forward and remain relevant. We each have to understand the why as it relates to our role. Most of us are familiar with and could describe what we do and how we do it. But to be purposeful means we understand why we do what we do and focus all our attention, energy, and resources on delivering the purpose. Without clarity of purpose, our leadership voice will not have focus or meaning. In this section, we will discuss how leaders can inspire and motivate their team by creating a compelling vision of the future and the goals that will take them there. Fulfilling our purpose requires planning. Purpose rarely comes about without our focused and guided energy in its direction. So we start with creating our goals and desired outcomes. At each step, we ask ourselves, what change will contribute to the realization of my purpose or vision? What impact or outcome do I intend for that change to make? So, for example, a vision could be that we want to create a high-performing team. Well, once we have that vision, we obviously need to have an understanding of how we are defining a high-performing team. And then our goal could be increase customer outreach efforts twofold for the next 2 years. And the outcome that we hope for as a result of that goal is a 10% increase in sales. Another example, perhaps our vision is to be the company award winner for outstanding customer service. A goal could be to follow up on all customer feedback within 24 hours. And that outcome that we're looking for as a result of that goal could be average score of 5 on all customer service feedback surveys. At this stage, we would need to think through who is involved and consider the outcomes we want to achieve as a result of our communications with them. Drawing a stakeholder map will help you to identify the parties that you need to reach, either individuals or groups, and then identify what you need to know. To engage with these individuals or groups effectively, we need to know their priorities, their perspective on the issue, and their personal style. So far, we've covered authenticity, leadership voice, and compelling vision. Are there any questions?
We are good. No questions.
Thank you. In this section, we'll discuss techniques for crafting your message, including engaging others through storytelling. This is actually my favorite section. I love storytelling. Aristotle was a master of the art of persuasion, and he outlines his thinking in his work, Rhetoric, where he identifies three important factors: credibility, emotion, and logic. We will take a look at these and consider how they can be useful to us when choosing how to frame our message. Of the three, ethos, which is also credibility, must always come first. Ideally, you want to appeal to the pathos, which is emotion, back your arguments with logos, which is also logic, and never lose ethos, credibility. For example, President Bill Clinton appealed to people using emotion. He often said, "I feel your pain." But there were serious questions raised about his credibility, and one could argue that there were times when he did not support his appeals with logic. He was a successful politician. I don't think anyone could argue with that, but there is no doubt that he could have been more successful. You can't get people to change according to your plans if they do not view you as credible. Change is a leadership objective. Our attitude towards change will rub off on the people that follow us. And in today's workplace, leaders are expected to develop other leaders. The people that follow you will be inspired to demonstrate their own personal leadership. And this makes positive change a part of the culture. So by authentic leadership and a leadership voice, we not only enable specific change, we enable cultural change that encourages everyone to demonstrate leadership from anywhere. We can lead from anywhere. It is a behavior brought about by a state of mind that recognizes the need to step forward and make something happen. The most effective way to connect with others is to create an emotional connection. While most people default to speaking logically, audiences buy in with their hearts, which allows us to engage on a deeper level. We should use simple and direct language to aid clarity and avoid misunderstanding, but not so direct that it is interpreted as a command or rudeness. Figures of speech also aid in understanding and give clarity. For example, brave as a lion or crazy like a fox. I think we probably have all heard those at some point of our lives. And it also helped us to create a picture of what the person was trying to say. In terms of metaphors, we say things like, "I am drowning in a sea of paper." Everyone knows what that means. That means that we have a lot of work to do. Time is money. The world is a stage. I have a ton of things to do. And then also, in terms of an analogy, she is as sweet as pie. Typically, I've heard that when we're speaking about a grandmother or an aunt, saying how wonderful they are. So those statements resonate with me, and they also help to create a picture for me. Statements such as these help us to visually connect with the message. Another essential meaning of engaging and connecting with others emotionally is through storytelling. Why don't we dump statistics on our social media pages? Well, first of all, it would be boring and no one would read them. But it's because stories resonate with people, allowing them to connect with our message in a deeper way than numbers could ever do alone. We tell ourselves stories about why we do what we do, about why we act the way we act, about what we said and why we said it, how something should or should not be done. The stories that go on in our head prove positively that storytelling is a natural mode of communication. Therefore, it should be a natural means of telling others our stories at work in order to influence them on the job. When there is a tragedy, the media doesn't just report the number of fatalities, the impact on the Richter scale, or the economy, and the inches of snow, rain, or flooding. Instead, reporters find people stories. They find a face, they put a face to the tragedy and tell you of the single guy who jumped from safety of his boat to save a drowning 2-year-old whose parents, unable to swim, stood on the swollen river's shore screaming for help. Storytelling is a superpower which makes leadership possible. A leader without the ability to tell a great story misses out on the platform and has a weakened ability to persuade. One of my favorite stories was told by a previous colleague of mine. I call him Dr. B. We worked in a public school system together at the time. We were at a cabinet or an executive retreat sharing our why. Dr. B's story went like this. I was a middle school principal, and there was a student named Colin. Colin was a bright kid, but he could not stay out of trouble. He was constantly being suspended and therefore missing school. I liked Colin, but really didn't know how to help him. Years later, I saw his mugshot on the news. He had been arrested for murder. My heart dropped, and I immediately became saddened, and I felt I had somehow failed him. Dr. B showed us Colin's picture and said, Colin is my why. I will work hard every day to show every student I encounter that there is a better way, and will provide them with opportunities to keep them engaged at school. After hearing Dr. B's why, I wiped the tears from my eyes and I wanted to jump out of my seat to follow him anywhere and do whatever I could to support his why. Although he was my colleague in that moment, and many times after his leadership, and many times after, his leadership voice transformed me into his follower. Have you ever had a Dr. B moment? I certainly hope all of you have been in my shoes and have been Dr. B to someone else. In this section, we will discuss the delivery of your message. The chart on this slide has been produced from the HRDQ self-assessment material. We all have a dominant communication style. So direct styles are typically decisive, have direct speech, doesn't typically stop to say hello. This style is more likely to be straight to the point, to be concise, and less likely to add fluff. Spirited styles typically generalize, they're persuasive, and they typically are express opinions readily. This person is more likely to lead with a big idea and less likely to stick to one topic. The considerate style listens and uses close personal language and supportive language. This person is more likely to ask how you're doing and actually wait for the answer. Less likely to share their opinion if they believe it'll be displeasing to others. The systematic style is they use precise language, they avoid emotions, and typically focus on specific details. They're more likely to appreciate and use logic and data to convey a point, and less likely to appreciate big picture ideas and express feelings. Knowing your style is helpful to understanding how others may receive your message. Additionally, understanding all of the styles may give you a clue regarding how others communicate and therefore prefer being communicated to. When we are more aware of the style being demonstrated by others, this helps rather than hinders the relationship. When we understand people better, we can better effectively communicate with them. Take a look at the chart here. Which style would you say is your dominant style? Identify your strengths from the list in the dominant style. Which of these strengths serve you well in your workplace and why? Please share them in the chat box. I am equally direct as I am systematic, and the strengths that serve me well include being decisive, getting to the bottom point, and seeking information. It is important to remember that all of these strengths are relevant, specifically where they enhance the message, build credibility, are authentic, and aid the intended interpretation of the message. As previously stated, no individual is perfect, and therefore each style has trouble spots. These can come from natural tendencies to emphasize or value certain aspects of work, which might be opposed to other people's values. Often the trouble spot is caused by a strength being overplayed. Look at the behaviors list under your dominant style. Check off those that best describe your trouble spots. What type of impact do these behaviors cause in your workplace? How are these behaviors displayed either by you or others in the workplace? All of these examples are significant specifically where they impact relationships and get in the way of collaboration or a productive environment. Communication is more than words. Let's discuss experiences you've had where someone's words or message had an impact on you. What was it that made the delivery of the words impactful? If the words had been delivered in a monotone, without emotion or context, would you have had the same impact? Would they have had the same impact? Communication is accomplished with more than just words. The more you develop as an authentic leader, the more you will have an impact. In addition, the bigger the impact, the greater the positive change you can create. Impact is created by a number of intangible factors. A strong sense of justice is tempered by mercy. A strong intellect tempered by the willingness to learn. Strong insistence on following the rules is tempered by flexibility. And a strong commitment to your followers is tempered by the ability to lead. Most importantly, maintaining a strong personal commitment to your vision. In this section, we'll discuss how we will know whether our message is effective, makes an impact, and brings us the results that we want. The last step in the process is to review progress, but the process is not linear, it is iterative. Frequent small course corrections are signs of good change management. Dramatic changes to goals and plans demonstrate a failure of change management. Always keep in mind your vision of what you want to achieve and make adjustments whenever you can if you believe they will increase the likelihood of being successful. This continuous review and reflection can keep the vision on track. Small changes all the way down the line can ensure that the plan doesn't go off track, but is further refined. Adapting and refocusing to deliver the vision. Remember, the goal of leadership is change. Making our vision a reality or getting to this desired change requires us to use our leadership voice to inspire others to take actions towards our vision. We have to be authentic to get our team to commit to our why, find ways to connect with them through our credibility and compelling vision, craft messages that help them to see the vision, deliver the message in a way that is successfully received by our audience, and constantly review our plan for results. I will leave you with a quote by Sheryl Sandberg. Leadership is the expectation that you can use your voice for good, that you can make the world a better place. How will you use your voice? Have you found it? What steps will you take to improve it? If this session piqued your interest, I encourage you to enroll in the full 3-day session. I thank you for joining us today, and I hope that this information was very helpful. And now I will defer to Mayanne to read any questions that might be lingering.
Thank you. I'm going to give everyone a minute or two just to type in some questions. We do have a couple already in there. That's really great. So please uh, feel free to type that in. Just a quick reminder, we are a SHRM partner and we offer courses that both provide knowledge and prepare all of our students for certification. We have courses currently scheduled on our website, including this course, I believe, which are coming up in the next couple of weeks. If you're interested in any of the material that was presented on this webinar, or if you have any questions regarding other available course offerings, please make sure to connect with your local center to get more information. You can log on to our website at www.newhorizons.com and do a zip code search for the center that is nearest you. Also, we do have our webinar schedule. We're ramping up and scheduling a ton for the next upcoming months. Please check there to see what our latest and greatest webinars are going to be and what the schedule is. Click on the link to view the schedule on newhorizons.com, register for any upcoming sessions, and just another reminder that we'll be sending out an archive recording of today's webinar for you to view and to pass on to any colleagues that may have missed the session. So diving deep into questions here, Tiffany, the first question is, in touching on credibility, how can you make small steps to increase it within an organization? Does it differ when it is a new organization versus an old environment or old organization?
So I would absolutely say that it is different for newer organizations. I believe that it is easier for newer organizations to establish credibility because you're not competing with what's been done in the past. You have the opportunity to set up a culture of trust where people are comfortable taking risks and feel very much supported. In established and older organizations, it is more difficult because you are having to wrestle with changing the culture of the organization. So it is very much different. And in terms of how to build credibility in an established organization, it starts at the top. It really starts at the top. And as the leader of an organization, if you are leading from a place where your team does not trust the direction that you are taking them in, or they don't trust the information that you are sharing with them, it is harder for the people that report to you to then carry out your message to the people that report to them. So it has to start at the top. Trust starts there. Credibility starts there. Creating a culture in an organization where people feel trusted and supported, it starts there. But I'll go a little deeper. If you are the leader of a team and you're not the leader of the organization, some of the things that I have done to ensure that I have credibility with my team is I lead by example. I do what I say that I'm going to do. I am honest with them, and I am also very transparent. So you can do your part, but changing the culture in the organization as a whole can be quite challenging if the leader at the top is not willing to make a shift as well. I hope that helped.
Great answer. Another question that came in is, what are your recommendations on leading a narcissist that is continually looking for the next thing to create drama?
Wow, that sounds rather interesting. Well, I think one of the challenges of being in the same space with a narcissist is that it is challenging because that person oftentimes does not accept how they show up and how they impact other people. So, what I suggest is that we continue, or you continue to show that person, hey, this is how this particular action or this particular conversation is impacting the team. I would show that person some data. I think as much data as we could gather that is actually tangible, I think that that is one of the ways, excuse me, one of the ways that we could perhaps help to manage that person. I don't think you're going to be able to change who the person is. You might be able to make some inroads in helping that person to be more self-aware and giving them tools to behave in a way that is more effective and more beneficial to the team as a whole.
Great. We have a lot of good questions coming in, Tiffany, by the way. That was a really good answer to that one. Um, the next question is, how do you deal with colleagues who actually work to silence your leadership voice? That's actually a really good one.
That is a really good one. And that is probably one of the most challenging situations to navigate as a leader. So the first question that I would have for the person who asked that question is, what is your relationship with those other individuals that you are on a team with? A lot of times your relationship with those teammates or lack thereof contributes to their sabotaging your efforts. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could just be that they are jealous of the progress that you've made as a leader. So the way that you do it is, one, always be respectful. I would document every single thing that I've done, and I would make sure that the individuals that have the ability to make a change are aware of the work that I am doing and are aware of the impact that I am making as a leader. And then the other thing is, if those individuals are impacting your impact with your team, I would also begin to wonder what your relationship with your team is as well. What is your level of credibility with your team? Are you able to penetrate those behaviors and those conversations that are perhaps happening unbeknownst to you that are impacting the team as a whole? At the end of the day, this comes down to relationships. People don't typically undermine other people that they have a good relationship with. Thank you for that question.
Good answer. Another really great question that came in is, how do you maintain your vision and purpose if it does not align with executive leadership's agenda, but you believe in the
Mhm.
mission and the purpose of the company and are willing to navigate through the changes?
That's really difficult because, I really believe that as a leader, we have to make difficult choices. And sometimes that means, okay, here's what I believe, and here's my vision. But the company that I work for has a vision that is taking me away from that. So I think that we have to sit in that moment and really decide, is this the company for me? I believe in the company. I just don't necessarily agree with the vision. So, am I in the right place? Am I working for the right organization? Or am I comfortable helping the organization obtain this vision? And is there another way for me to bring my vision to life within the organization or outside of the organization? Is there some other type of extracurricular activity that I can do to help bring my vision to life? Is there um, I don't know, a nonprofit organization that I can volunteer with that shares the vision that I have, that I can somehow still channel my desire to bring this to life, but also continue to work for this organization who's doing great things and that I believe in.
Could not agree more about what you just said. um, Great questions. Gosh. How do you suppose someone can gain better leadership skills when they are shy or soft spoken?
Mm, that's a great question. And, a lot of people look at me crazy when I say that I'm an introvert. And I used to be extremely shy, but I always found a way, or not found a way, but I always found myself in leadership positions. And so I don't know how that happened. But what I did was I always found things that I really enjoyed doing and was passionate about. And so I couldn't contain myself when it came to those those activities. I wanted to lead because I was so excited about them. And that helped me to overcome my shyness. I wasn't excellent when I first started. I stumbled a lot and I got a lot of things wrong because I was so uncomfortable. But because I was so passionate about those things that I led, it helped me to push through because it excited me and it made me want to do better. It made me want to get in front. As an HR person, it was so difficult having to talk to people all the time because I was uncomfortable. But I always found myself in front of a group of new hires having to deliver new hire orientation. I always found myself having to deliver customer service training or leading a conversation between a manager and their direct report. So I found myself in those situations that required me to step up as a leader and have difficult conversations with people and to be the voice of the organization. So if you really, really want to be a leader and you're shy, I encourage you to find something that you are so passionate about that you can't even stop yourself from getting in front of it and being the voice of it. I would start there. I wouldn't start with something that you're not sure about or that brings you a little discomfort. Again, find something that really means something to you and find a way to be a leader in that space first. Thank you for that question.
Awesome. The next question is, I feel like we could all relate to this in one way or another, is if you have a new supervisor who seems to like he or she wants to make decisions based on poor or no information, or things that he or she knows that information without really knowing it, how do you fix that, or how do you go about working with someone who has that mentality as, someone who is reporting up to this new supervisor?
hmm well, the first question I would ask is where is the supervisor? Um, how are they coming about having to make the decision? Are you taking the question to the supervisor? And if you are, what I would do is take the information with me. I will have done the research so that I can set that person up for success. I will go to my leader and I will say, hey, I've done all the research. Here's all the information. All I need now is a decision based on the information that I provided you. But I would also take it a step further. As a leader, when my staff presents information to me, I don't just want the data. I want the recommendation because I trust them. And it is my hope that your new supervisor trusts you as well. But I trust them. So I don't want them to just dump a bunch of information on me. I want them to say, hey, Tiffany, here's all the information. And by the way, here's what I recommend. That makes life a lot easier. And also, it helps you to what I call manage up. you're already saying, here's the information, but by the way, this is really what I want you to do, or this is really what I think you should do. And then that manager has the opportunity to make a decision based on their best thinking or based on their belief in or trust in your ability to make a sound decision. I hope that was helpful.
I think so. I got a little bit of updated information from the person who asked the question. The new
Okay.
supervisor is from another department and not familiar with the issues that they and his team currently face, but he brings up he brings up recommendations that they're not paid attention to. So I think that what you said really helped this individual kind of work
Good.
through that issue. So
Okay, good.
thank you for providing that updated information. Really, really good question there. Another one is about timing. How long should I go through a cycle with the person before realizing he or she is not interested in changing, um, or or changing their ways or the way they act? Hopefully, I asked that question correctly.
And in order to answer that question, I would need to know, are you the leader or are you talking about your leader? So are
Mm,
you talking about someone that you are leading and you supervise, or are you talking about your leader?
that's
So
it.
if you are talking about someone that you supervise, and Mayan, if you have an update, that would be helpful.
Haven't gotten an update yet. So you know what?
Okay.
Maybe we'll give that person a couple minutes. Maybe they'll type in the update. But let me move on to another question in the meantime.
Okay.
Um, the next one is: do you have any tips for keeping good leadership skills when you are not getting the support from upper management?
I do, and that's really I hate hearing that because I truly believe that individuals that want to lead should be poured into. Any opportunity to help a person grow, um, I capitalize on that because that it makes the organization better as a whole. I would, and I have in the past, I have often sought out opportunities outside of my organization. I've taken advantage of so many leadership development programs. I can't even tell you how many programs I've been a part of. But a lot of them do cost. But I've also had the opportunity to be the recipient of scholarships. So I would look into the different leadership development programs that are available to you where you live and see how you might be a participant in those. And the other thing, I don't know if you've noticed, I have a PhD. I went to get a PhD because I wanted to continue to learn. I wanted to continue to know more about the space that I was really committed to. I've been in HR for over 20 years. And so I decided to further my knowledge of HR by obtaining a PhD in organization development. And through that process and having to write a dissertation and do research, that furthered my understanding of leadership. It also forced me to um, further demonstrate my leadership because of the research that I elected to do. So there are different opportunities and different ways that you can create opportunities for yourself. Perhaps you don't want to go to school, but there are so many online platforms that are available to all of us. You can also take advantage of organizations that you can become a member of and become a leader in those organizations. Most organizations are they're in desperate need of people who have a desire to lead and be a part of, some of the committees and, perhaps be the treasurer of the organization. But being a part of the leadership team in any organization will help you grow as a leader. So I look forward to, well, I probably won't have an opportunity to talk to you again, but I'm excited for you to take the next step in your leadership journey.
Wonderful, awesome answer. This is a really, really good question coming up here. It says, for an individual with considerate communication style, do you have any recommendations for dealing with employees who are demanding of your time and are not being considerate, or what what are your recommendations for strengthening communication?
So yeah, that's a really good question. And one of the things that's really difficult about communication is accepting the fact that that it is our responsibility to ensure that our audience receives our message the way that we intend for them to receive it. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you have a considerate style and you know the people that work for you or work with you have a more systematic style, then you have to find a way to communicate your message to them in a systematic way, because it is difficult for people to receive a message from someone in a style that is not theirs. So when I'm trying to convey a message to someone, I can say, okay, I know this person has a considerate style. So before I start the conversation, let me check on them and see how they're doing. Let me make sure that I am purposeful when I am listening to what they're saying. I want to make sure that they are clear that I care about them and that their message is important to me, and that I'm patient as they are giving me all of their ideas and trying to share all of the things that they are excited about with me. So we have to make sure that we understand those individuals' communication style so that we better understand how to craft a message to them in a way that they can receive it. It's not going to be comfortable. It will not be comfortable at all. But that is something that we have to learn as leaders. And change is all about being uncomfortable. And so we have to work in that space so that we can get better and communicate better, so that people really, really hear our messages the way we intend for them to. Thank you.
Awesome. This next question is actually very interesting. How can you show that you hear them, and I'm assuming the leaders, and understand their view, but you are not the person in control of that specific thing, but are willing to help them do the thing they feel they just can't accomplish? I know that's a bit vague, but it seems like
Yeah.
you're not in you. It seems like they're saying they are not the person in control of the specific vision or a mission or whatever it is, but you're willing to help the new leader or that leader bring that vision or mission that to life, um, that they can't accomplish on their own. Hopefully, I'm asking
Gotcha.
that one correctly.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So I think it's essentially saying that. I think you essentially tell that individual, I don't have the authority to make these certain decisions. However, I believe in your mission and vision, and I would like to be a part of the engine that helps to bring it to life. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's about overcomplicating it or um, uh, making sure that the person is aware that it's maybe not necessarily your job to do that or under your purview. But I think it's more about you letting that person know, hey, this is something I'm really excited about. I'll work on this, outside of work hours if that's what it takes, because this means something to me and I'm excited about it. I hope that answered the question.
I hope so too, and it sounds like you answered it just like a pro there. We do have a couple more questions and we still have time, so this is great. A lot of great questions, everyone. What can be done to have your leadership voice and the change you've implemented recognized?
I'm going to assume that this person is wanting recognition from their boss. Um, that is my
I
guess.
think so. I think so.
Okay. Okay. So I think what's really important is that we are not afraid to what am I trying to say? To pump ourselves up, if you will, or to give ourselves accolades. It's okay to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, boss, I just want to call your attention to some of the gains that my team made this semester or this quarter. Here were our goals, and here are the things that we did. And as a result of the leadership changes that I made, this is how we were able to move forward. So I think that's one way. And we should always remember that we have never achieved anything without the support of our team. So we should never leave our team out whenever we are saying, hey, if once we're patting ourselves on our back, we need to always remember that a pat on our back has to also be a pat on the back of the other individuals that helped us to get there. We are not, we can't lead we can lead ourselves, but I don't know that I would call you a leader if you have no one that is following you and helping you to achieve your mission. So when you do that, just remember to also thank the people that helped you to be successful.
Awesome. And then we did get a little bit of update. The person who sent in that question, she said them was actually the people that she led. So I think you
Okay.
answered that one correctly. No, we're heading to the top of the hour, but a couple more questions here. How can you provide an efficient feedback or coaching to a person who is in denial about their actions and only blames everyone else?
hmm That's really difficult. And the unfortunate thing about that is just sometimes there is absolutely nothing you can do to help that person see themselves. They have to really want to know why things are happening the way that they are. So I always defer to data. Give them the data. And at the end of the day, this person will probably still look at the data and say that the data is wrong. However, as their leader, the way that we should manage, the most effective way to manage is to set the goals, set the expectations, and you are the determining factor with regard to whether or not the goals and the expectations have been attained. You're not going to always be able to help people see themselves. And that's unfortunate because it's one of the most impactful ways to improve our performance as individuals and as leaders. But because that's not always possible, you have to lead from a place of showing them the data and making sure that you are setting the expectations and that you are clearly articulating what is being expected of them as well, and keep them updated of their progress. And any and all data is helpful for individuals in a situation like that.
Awesome. One last question before we wrap up. It's actually a two-part question. Person asked, do you suggest enforcing warnings to teams even after having write-ups? And she followed that up with, do you suggest a point system?
So, Maya, read the first part of the question again. I'm sorry.
Sure. The first part is, do you suggest enforcing warnings to the team even after having them written up?
Mm.
Yes. And the follow-up to that was, do you suggest a point system instead?
I think it depends on your organization. There are some organizations where documenting performance concerns or behaviors is more effective than a point system because a point system is not as flexible as the actual documentation, if you will. They're both ways of documenting, but I would say that the point system is less forgiving than the actual warning system, the written warning system. So it depends on your organization. Is your organization the type of organization that truly documents performance for the purpose of helping team members to get better? Or is your organization the type of organization where you say, we've got to be consistent. We cannot be flexible because we've been burned, in the past. Or, we don't have time to manage each individual person because we've got a ton of things to do. And the most effective way to manage behavior is to do a point system. So you have to decide what type of organization you're in. And the system should be determined by the type of organization that you're working in. And then if you have the flexibility as a team member or as a leader to make that determination yourself, then you set the standard. You determine, okay, is this a place where I want to be flexible, where I have the luxury of being able to be flexible with my team members, to give them the space to make improvements. And if I've written them up and I see that they're making strides towards improvement, but this thing just so happens to happen again, do I want to have the flexibility to just give them a verbal warning and not write them up again? So those are questions you have to answer for yourself and determine what will work best for your team and your organization.
Great. Thank you so much. We had a lot of good conversation, a lot of good questions coming through the session. I'm so glad we had a chance to kind of just go through a bunch of them. We're heading to the top of the hour, so I want to thank you again, Tiffany, for sharing and presenting on behalf of New Horizons. Everyone, thank you again for joining us. Hope to see you all in another session with us in the upcoming weeks. With that said, you may now log off today and have a good one. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.